Texture filters are filters that typically apply to the entire image. They either fill that image with a texture, or they modify the image by overlaying a texture on top of them to create a painterly effect. And even though they do not require a shape like the text and selection filters, texture filters can also be applied to shapes to create interesting effects. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you these 3 ways to use texture filters. Let's start with the simplest way of using these filters, which is to use them to fill an entire image with a texture. Here's the eye candy logo on a transparent layer. I'm not going to do anything to the logo in this tutorial, but I want to create an interesting background to go with the logo. So we'll launch the brick wall filter, go to the Settings tab, and open the Settings Tour group. This group contains a sampling of settings from all the other groups, so you can quickly get an idea of what a filter can do by browsing through them. If something catches your eye, like the gray concrete setting, you can go down to the group called Gray to see similar settings. The other interesting thing about texture filters is that most of them have a seamless tile mode, which allows you to create a texture that can be repeated without seeing any seams between the repeated tiles. You can turn the brick wall filter into seamless tile mode by going to the Basic tab and clicking on this Seamless Tile option. And the texture is now ready to be tiled. It's that easy. Or you can go to the Settings Tour group labeled Seamless Tile, and these are essentially the same kind of settings that you saw earlier, except that the Seamless Tile option has been enabled on all of them. Now let's pick the setting that we want, hit OK to apply, and we have a textured background. Notice that the effect is applied to a new layer above the current layer, and the original layer is still available. This is part of eye candy's support for a non-destructive workflow. Let's move on to another example. This time, I'm going to show you how to use a texture filter to create a painterly effect. In order to do this, you'll need to start with an image like this one. I'm going to run the swirl filter from the filter menu this time. You can run the filter from the panel too if you wish. They both do the same thing. And here we're in the filter user interface. The swirl filter by default generates a texture that overrides the source image, just like the brick wall filter that we saw earlier. That's okay. Let's go to the Settings tab, open the Painterly group of settings, and go down the list to find an effect that we like. I think I like this one with the small spirals best. So I'm going to hit OK to apply, and we're done. And again, the filter effect is applied to a new layer, so your original layer is still preserved. This is the final example of this tutorial. I'm going to show you the interesting effects that you can get when you use a texture filter with a shape. Here are 2 strawberries. I'm going to load a selection that I made earlier of the strawberry on the right. Then I'm going to run the animal fur filter. Okay, go to the Settings tab and open the Painterly group of settings and go down the list to see if I can find an effect that I like. And I think I'm going to pick the soft and silky setting, hit OK to apply, and that's my hairy strawberry. Okay, that was a fun example. Let's review what we did in this tutorial. I demonstrated 3 ways to use the texture filters. They are the plain texture mode, the painterly mode, and using a texture with a shape. And that's the end of this tutorial. There is so much more that eye candy can do, so please check out our other tutorials at alienskin.com.